Welcome everyone to another episode in the Every Illegal Action in So-and-So series. So in the last episode of the series, we ended up doing Every Illegal Action in CIMO'S progression series, and that was actually episodes 1 through 25. So I got a lot of comments saying, hey, do the next thing, do the next series, and I was like, you know what? Sure, let's do it. So now what I'm doing is Every Illegal Action in CIMO'S History of Yugioh series, episodes 1 through 25 as well. The 25th episode was just uploaded recently, last week or so, so I was like, you know what, it's time. I will just go ahead and clarify right now from the beginning. There are plenty of cards that have received erratas since. I say this because there's a lot of comments in their actual series, if you look at the comment section in their videos, that say things like, hey, actually, Catapult Turtle is actually only once per turn, so you can't abuse magical scientists, so that's an illegal action. Okay, so those aren't illegal actions because they are actually playing way back in the day before the errata occurred. If you have any questions about errata and all those different ones that have happened, I will drop a link right now. You can actually see it on the video right now. That links to a video I made a couple months ago about errata and how all that works and all the different cards that have been errata since. Anyway, let's go ahead and start this video. So I counted a total of 38 illegal actions in the span of 25 videos. So we're actually starting with episode 3, believe it or not. There were no illegal actions in episode 1 or 2 of the History of Yu-Gi-Oh series, but in part 3 there actually is the very first one. I'm going to put this in the very corner so it doesn't really interrupt everything that you see on screen. I'm going to just play this quick clip so you can see.
I'll just attack into this. If it's a wall of illusion, we're kind of just at a stalemate here.
Your intuition was right. We've got dueling walls, the most powerful card in the game.
I mean, it's beaten you twice in a row.
Okay,
so far,
alright.
Okay, so one thing that I will say right now is that a lot of the time when it comes to little life point things, yes, first of all, no matter how small the life point miss that they did or that they didn't put, I am still going to include it because it technically is illegal. In this case, it was 150 damage because basically the Battle Locks attacked the Wall of Illusion, 150 reflected damage, and CIMO never took damage. However, the second thing, just like the previous video in this series, is did it matter? So that's going to be the next thing that we move on to. Well, the only way to actually see this is by fast forwarding it all the way until we get to close to where the end of this particular duel is. And as you can see right over here, well, it didn't matter because CIMO lost that duel anyway. There were already these monsters here. He's down to 26. He should be down to 2450 at this point. It wouldn't have mattered. He lost the duel anyway, so whatever. Moving on. Alright, moving all the way into episode number 7, believe it or not, which means episodes 4, 5, and 6 did not have any illegal actions. In episode 7, around the 33-minute mark or so, we get an illegal action. Let me play this clip really quick.
Oh my god. Alright, let's hit into this.
Yeah, okay. The whole deck is spells at this point, functionally. I guess I'm just gonna get Wall of Illusion, huh?
Okay, so the illegal action here is pretty obvious. Witch of the Black Forest only permits you to take monsters from that have 1500 defense or less from your deck into your hand upon it being sent to the graveyard from the field. So Wall of Illusion has 1850 defense, which makes it an illegal target for Witch. So the question is, did it matter? Well, if we move on to the next turn, we will see that MBT proceeds to set a card. So what card could that be? It's actually the Wall of Illusion. If we move a little forward, CIMO then flips the Cyberjar and the Wall of Illusion alongside the other. As you can see, it was both of them being Wall of Illusion. They both get sent to the graveyard, which means it didn't matter. If anything, MBT kind of screwed himself over from that illegal action because he could have searched like a Sangan or something and put it face down. And in this case, Sangan would have triggered and MBT could have gotten another extra card. So no, it did not matter at all. However, we are currently in the next one actually already, right here with the Cyberjar being flipped. Cyberjar alongside Morphing Jar 2, oh my gosh, these two cards are ruling nightmares, and there's actually a lot of people that don't actually know how Cyberjar is supposed to resolve correctly. It's very similar to Morphing Jar 2, and I actually even screwed it up with Morphing Jar 2 in my last video by not mentioning something very key regarding the shuffling of face-down monsters. But before I get into that, let's go ahead and I'll rewind in just a couple seconds and I will play this clip really quickly so you can see a little bit about what they do with Cyberjar here.
Okay, you got it.
So I will go first.
Sure.
Let's mill my top 5. So I'll just banish, actually. That's probably better. Whoops. Okay, so La Jin will go to attack. Axe of Despair.
Oh, wow.
Megamorph. Heavy Storm. Witch. I will also put Witch in attack, and I will add the 3 remaining cards to my hand.
Okay, I'll just stop it right there. I've played enough of that, even though MBT hasn't done his yet. So, Cyberjar is incredibly tricky when it comes to knowing, and I know for a fact that neither duelists here, MBT or CIMO, are aware of the way that Cyberjar is supposed to resolve, and even for the longest time, I wasn't sure either, because it's an older card, and a lot of us just, did player grind Yu-Gi-Oh! Back when we played with our friends as kids, and we just kind of did things on our own. To be fair, the card Cyberjar doesn't really say these specific things I'm about to mention in the card text. So let me actually go ahead and read the official ruling that you can easily find online. Both players reveal all 5 cards to each other, and then the turn player may special summon his monsters, then the opponent. After revealing the cards, you may shuffle them around so you can special summon monsters face down without the opponent knowing which monster is which. Yes, this is actually the official ruling, and very few people know this. I'm not talking about just Yu-Gi-Tubers not doing this, but a bunch of people in general, fans of Yu-Gi-Oh, don't actually know this, but that is the official ruling. So a couple things wrong with this illegal action here. Yes, the turn player does get to special summon monsters first, so as you can see, CIMO did do that correctly. He was the one who flipped Cyberjar because it was his turn, so went ahead and flipped it, which means that he gets to special summon him. But the key difference here is that both players need to reveal their 5 cards first. So CIMO is revealing one at a time here, his cards, and then he reveals 3 spells and then Witch, and he proceeds to special summon them by choosing both in face-up attack. Okay, and then the other 3 get added to the hand, of course. And then MBT then goes ahead and does his 5. He gets Morphing Jar, he gets an MST, a Sangan Monster Reborn, and the Painful Choice. That Snatch still was accidental, he went ahead and put it back, whatever. So those are his. In many cases this doesn't matter, but in some cases it can matter, because that actually affects how you special summon yours. In this particular case, they both have to reveal their 5 cards, and then CIMO's like, okay, I know that he has 2 monsters, so I'm going to special summon my monsters accordingly to get rid of his. Now, I don't think it mattered in this case, because if you take a look at this, both of these monsters have less attack than Witch, which is the lowest attack. So I'm assuming that if they did this correctly, he would have still placed both of his in defense mode, and he would have placed both of his in attack mode, and it's simple as that. However, the other problem with Cyberjar that they resolve incorrectly is the shuffling of face-down defense position monsters. So, yes, that is the effect of Cyberjar. If you choose at least 2 monsters that are in face-down defense position, you get to actually shuffle these, meaning the opponent shouldn't know that this here is a Sangan and that this is a Morphing Jar. Now in this case that didn't matter either, because look at MBT's life points. It doesn't matter if these were shuffled and CIMO has no idea. He just needs to attack one with the other, and then he summons 7 colored fish for the win, yeah, and that's it. That's the game. So it did not matter in this case, but I did want to clarify that was an illegal way of resolving Cyberjar's effect, and this is actually going to happen numerous times in the series. This is the only time I'm going to talk about it in length. Every single Cyberjar every single Cyberjar illegal action after this, I'm just going to go through it quick because you don't need to hear this crazy explanation crap again, so just letting you know. Okay, the next one is in the same video, part 7, at around the 45, 20-ish mark, around there, another incorrect resolve of Cyberjar. So it's actually CIMO'S turn here. So Sangan goes ahead and attacks, as you can see, into the Cyberjar. So it's CIMO'S turn, keep that in mind. Cyberjar goes to the graveyard, sends Sangan to the graveyard, and they each do their 5. But in here they actually did it backwards. The turn player is supposed to special summon first. There is that whole revealing at the same time, which I already mentioned, so obviously they're going to be doing that wrong every single time in the series. But they also even did the turn, like the turn player not doing it correctly. So MBT ended up getting these cards. He got a Mystic Tomato, Wall of Illusion, and Trap Hole. And then CIMO went ahead and got a Dark Elf as the only monster. Now, would it have mattered if they each knew the identity of the 5 cards? Probably not, because MBT went ahead and set both of his. He would have still set both those monsters, no doubt about that. There's no way he would have been like, oh, he has a Dark Elf, let me special summon in attack mode, or hey, he has these 2 weaker monsters, let me put my Dark Elf in defense mode. That would not have mattered, so no, definitely not. Now the shuffling here, there's actually 2 monsters, Mystic Tomato and Wall of Illusion. If we move forward, the Dark Hole is used, everything goes to the graveyard. What does that mean? The shuffling thing that they did illegally doesn't matter either, because they all got wiped out by a dark hole anyway, so who cares? Alright, the next one is the same video, another Cyberjar. I can't believe this. Okay, this one is around the 50-20 mark. CIMO goes ahead and flip summons his Cyberjar. Cool, so everything goes to the graveyard, and then they do it correctly this time. Turn player is going to special summon, but again, the whole revealing 5 is going to be illegal every time in this series because they didn't resolve that properly. But here's Lajin and Morphing Jar, so he puts Lajin in attack, Morphing Jar defense, and then over here, look at these. Oh my god, that's, yeah, one monster, that's right. So one monster, it wouldn't have mattered, I don't think, because again, they're flip effect monsters. They would have still chosen those in defense mode, and Lajin would have been in attack mode regardless. So the other thing is that in this particular case, there's only one face-down defense budget monster on each side, which means a shuffling thing that I keep talking about, you can't even do that because you can't shuffle if there's only one, so that part doesn't matter. So yeah, it did not matter in this case either. Alright, moving on to part 8. In part 8, around the 37-30 mark, we get another Cyberjar illegal action. MBT goes ahead and attacks with Witch. Cyberjar gets flipped. These cards go to the graveyard, and here we go. Another Cyberjar. MBT should be special summoning first. In this case, however, CIMO is the one who goes first this time, so even that part's illegal. So let's see. They went ahead and got these 5 cards, put a Morphing Jar, and that was the only card that he ended up getting. And then for MBT's side, only a Mechanical Chaser and attack. Pretty obvious that they would have done that regardless if they both did it at the same time, so it did not matter. Only one face on defense budget monster, so no shuffling required here, so that didn't matter either. Yeah, so a lot of things are not mattering right now. They are still illegal actions, and that's the purpose of this video, but they're not mattering, so that's good. Okay, moving on to part 9, around the 34-40-ish mark, around there. Keep in mind that Jinzo is face up on the field and its effect is currently working. Keep that in mind as I play you this clip.
Activating my own painful choice.
Wow.
Yeah, how do you like it?
Alex, I like it much better.
With your Jinzo active?
I did it twice! 2 games in a row! Oh my god, alright, get your painful choice going.
Okay.
It's pretty obvious that it was a misplay by MPT, which is fair, you know. However, the misplay is a very different thing from the illegal action. If somebody does do a kind of misplay like that, like activating Imperial when Jinzo's on the field, fair enough, right? However, even though it's a mistake, you do have to resort the gameplay back to how it's supposed to be being played legally. What does that mean? Well, if you take a look, and I'm actually going to go ahead and go back a little bit just so that we can see the effect that Yugioh actually is reading. So here, we can actually see what Yugioh says. Trap cards and their effects on the field cannot be activated. Yugioh has 2 effects. It negates all the trap effects on the field currently, like if there's already something face up, like a face up Imperial Order, it negates that. But the other thing that it also does is that it prohibits the activation of trap cards. So, if somebody were to make a mistake by, moving forward over here with an activation of Imperial Order or any other face up continuous trap card, again, fair enough, but in order to go back to how it was, that trap card needs to go back down, because Yugioh prohibits the activation of traps, so Imperial Order needs to be set back down if somebody messes up. You can't just leave it face up and be like, well, it's just not activating because Jinzo's on the field. No, that's illegal. You have to put it back face down because Jinzo's effect is literally saying to do that. The truth is that technically it doesn't really matter at all, because if we fast forward into that, it's the same turn still. CIMO'S able to do a lot of things like change of hearting. He goes ahead and does a Raigeki to wipe out the Dark Elf, and then the duel, here's the asterisk thing because there's actually another illegal action here which I'll talk about. The duel looks like it's over, so if that card was face down, it wouldn't have done anything at all, because there we go. But this actually brings me to the next illegal action in this video, and that is the activation, or sorry, not the activation, the effect of Megamorph on the Yugioh. They both put a little, counter thing here to know that it's equipped to the Yugioh. There's something very important and confusing you got to keep in mind about Megamorph, and they definitely messed this up, but it's fair enough, because it's very confusing. Before I mention that, let's just play this clip real quick.
And I will fire off Raigeki.
Oh, jeez. Okay, that's
This
wrong.
is the end of the game.
This is 48. Yeah, it is.
This is the end of the game. 100.
Okay, so the illegal action is the fact that they're treating Yugioh as double attack. That's not how Megamorph works. However, the original owner of Megamorph is actually MBT, which means that the effect applies in relation to MBT's life points towards CIMO'S. which means MBT's life points are currently higher than CIMO'S, which means that Megamorph is halving the attack of Jinzo. Jinzo should be at 12. If you do the math, 12 plus 1850 is actually 3050 plus another 700, that's 3750 damage. MBT's at 6000. 6000 minus 3750 means that he definitely would not have lost the duel right here. So one thing I will say is that Jinzo was actually change of hearted, which means it's going back over here to MBT's side of the field upon the turn being over. And keep something in mind, that if they played this correctly, MBT would have actually been the winner of this duel. Why? Because if he attacks with these three, down by 3750 less, Jinzo is still at half because 6000 minus 3750 is still higher life points than 500. So Jinzo would be at 1200 with MBT. Jinzo can then attack over Morphing Jar. That is exactly a 500 life point difference. 1200 versus 700. And there we go. 500. CIMO goes down to 0 life points. It's that simple. These cards are useless because Jinzo's on the field. Premature Barrel cannot be used because 500 life points doesn't work. He had a Sangam, but that doesn't do shit in this case. So MBT should have actually been the rightful winner. Now you could go back more and go into more hypothetical situations, be like, well, if they both knew the rulings, CIMO would have obviously not changed a heart of the Jinzo if he knew that it was half. He would have Raigeki'd it instead. That's fair, but that's very hypothetical, having to be like, well, CIMO knew what was happening. I'm just judging it by how I'm looking at illegal actions at the point from when the illegal action takes place. At this point, the illegal action was the illegal calculation. They overdid it to the point where MBT lost. That's illegal. You can get all hypothetical all you want, and that's fair on your part, but in this case, I would have said MBT should have been the rightful winner in this duel. Exactly 500 life points, beat over Morphing Jar, that's the victory. I will say, however, that in the end, the overall match result didn't matter, because even though MBT should have won that, he would have won 2 in a row, the match is his. In match 3, CIMO ended up, he actually ended up getting OTK'd, believe it or not, which was really hilarious. So in a way, it's kind of cool. So in the end, in the match, it didn't matter. For the game, totally 100% mattered. For the match, totally 100% did not matter. Alright, moving on to part 10. Part 10 was definitely a clusterfuck. Let's just say there were a lot of illegal actions in this video, and in the end, it's really important to realize that it's really hard to calculate if all of this combined would have actually mattered or not. The very first thing, I'm not going to play this clip, but basically MBT attacks with Mystic Tomato over Witch. That should be 300 damage, and we can see in the log that CIMO never takes that 300 damage. You can go as forward as you want, he never takes it. Now 300 damage, would that really matter? Well, here's the thing. If we actually go forward all the way over here to 2200 life points, MBT actually makes a statement here that he ended up having a change of heart. Let me actually go a little bit more, yep, right here. Right here. Now there was a point when he already had it before everything else was actually played, which is approximately right here, and he mentions that when he reveals change of heart at the end after he lost the duel, and he was saying, wow, if only you had, 2000 or less, I could change of heart you, attack, and you could lose. In this case, it would have 100% mattered because CIMO should be down to 1900. MBT ended up losing this duel, as you can see right here, because basically all this is here. Mirror Force is useless because Jinzo's here. He takes all this damage, which makes MBT lose. He should have won this duel by these standards. But there's something else that kind of prohibits me from saying 100% mattered, because MBT also did some illegal actions here. So let's take a look at those. Oh, but before that, there was actually an illegal Cyberjar activation a little bit earlier, around the 2340 mark or so. He ends up flipping Cyberjar. Cyberjar actually belonged to MBT but got change of hearted, but still it's the turn of CIMO, so CIMO should be going first with this. He does end up going first, and you can see the cards. It was actually 5 spells and traps that went to the hand. And then for MBT, it didn't really matter, I would say, because again, the only illegal part of this is that they didn't do them both at the same time, so MBT can see what cards are in the hand. But I don't think it would have mattered. Nothing in here is too deadly to face up monsters aside from Snatch Steel, but I don't think that would have actually changed the course of the duel. So I want to throw that out there. It's just another illegal action. However, the other part of this that MBT ended up doing illegally is the fact that the other 2 cards that he had, so again, these are actually the 5 cards, these 5. Field, 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 we know that. But there's Torrential Tribute and Jinzo, and what happens? They should be going to the hand, but they don't. MBT actually left both of them in the graveyard. Now, to be fair, with Torrential Tribute, he kind of screwed himself over because he just lost a card. But with Jinzo, technically you can say he screwed himself over, but The thing is, something actually happened. He does call the haunted on the Jinzo. The Jinzo should be in the hand right now. And eventually, as you can see right here, eventually everything gets blown up by it ends up going back, Raigeki. Dark Elf comes onto the field, and then comes this thing that I was mentioning about the whole up down to 1900. It's hard to say. It definitely seems more obvious to me that MBT got screwed over more by the illegal action of CIMO'S 300 life points as opposed to Call the Haunted, but there's no fair way to actually analyze this. It's very difficult. Alright, in the same video, in a different duel, however, I'm on the almost a 48 mark. I'm just going to play this here.
Forest. However, I can use this Mechanical Chaser to hit over this tomato.
Wow, that's a strange hand you've got there. I guess I'll get a Witch of the Black Forest of my own.
Okay, 3 tomatoes down.
Okay, basically what happened here is that MBT did not take the 450 life points that he should have, so he should actually be down by 450 from the 8k. However, in the end, with Morphine Jar's flip, gets 5 cards, as CIMO'S turn, summons a Dark Elf, and there we go. It did not matter 100% because he should have been down to 1200 here instead of 1650, but he would have still died this turn anyway, so it didn't matter. However, around the 50-35 mark, so in that same duel a little bit later, another incorrect resolve of Cyberjar actually, so everything gets blown up. MBT goes first. However, if we take a look, CIMO'S actually attacking, so it's his turn. He should be going first, but once again, they all need to be revealing the 5 cards first before any of them special summons. They actually do this in complete reverse. Gemini Elf goes on the field, those cards get added to the hand, and then comes CIMO. And then he has these, he summons a Dark Elf. So this here is a situation where it potentially mattered, and here's what's very important about this. CIMO puts this in a face-up attack, as you can see. If they resolve this correctly, CIMO should have gone, I mean, they both reveal their cards first, but then CIMO special summons a Dark Elf first. And if that's the case, this could have actually affected MBT, because he would have seen, oh, you have a Dark Elf and it's still the battle phase. So I'm actually going to put my Gemini Elf in defense mode instead, because obviously it's going to get attacked by the Dark Elf. So I'm not a mind reader, I don't know what would have happened, but I'm just saying, it's these particular situations that can affect duels, which is why it's very important that you resolve Cyberjar correctly, or else this kind of stuff can mess up. As you can see, CIMO does end up attacking the Gemini Elf, and he does lose the 100 life points. Did it matter? Well, it's actually the same duel that we go all the way over here, remember this thing? So he should have been down to 1200 because of the other illegal action, but let's give him 100 more back. He should have been at 1300 instead, because he shouldn't have taken that 100. Well, in the end, it didn't matter because he would have been annihilated by this turn anyway, so it's fine. Oh, and one other thing I forgot in this duel as well is regarding the ruling of Kaiku. This happened in the progression series as well. Let me just play the clip really quickly.
First, Kaiku.
Yeah, that's fine. So I will take 4. I get to trigger the tomato. You get to banish some cards.
I'll take the tomatoes. I'm going to leave that call as you.
The illegal action is the fact that Kaiku ended up banishing both tomatoes, one of which was already in the graveyard, and the other of which was face up on the field. So just to clarify this with all of you in case you don't know, Kaiku is not allowed to banish the card that got destroyed in battle. If it attacked the face up attack position and did some battle damage, the effect goes off. He took 400, but it cannot banish the card that's already face up on the field. The reason why is because when the effect is happening, it's still during the damage calculation. This card is technically still face up on the field. You can banish this one, you could banish something else, but not this one. Did it matter? I would say no, because if it was in the graveyard, I don't see anything in particular. The only card that actually did eventually come out in regards to graveyard involvement was Call of the Haunted. He chose to bring back a witch. Would he have chosen the Mystic Tomato if Mystic Tomato was in the graveyard? I don't know. I don't know for sure, but in this case, I'm sure most people would be like, well, it probably didn't matter, to be honest. Alright, moving on to episode 12 now. So there were no illegal actions in part 11. In part 12, around the 21-25 mark, something here happens. Let me go ahead and just play this.
I would like to. That would be nice. No, that's not going to do it. All right, well, we are on beatdown. Let's just go ahead and summon this Bazoo. Is that fine?
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's see if we can get into this.
You idiot! You moron! It's my Sinister Serpent!
Main phase 2, I will go ahead and set a card. I actually will add Sinister Serpent back to my hand because we were supposed to do that.
Oh,
so.
Will!
Okay, I'll stop it right there. So just know with Sinister Serpent, first of all, the effect that you see here is actually errata, but one thing that didn't change from the errata is the fact that it's an optional effect. So what CIMO just did right now is actually an illegal play because Sinister Serpent is an optional effect. It was already in the graveyard, and you can bring it back in your standby phase from the graveyard if you would like to. It's up to you, it's optional, which means with optional effects, if you miss the trigger from when it's going to happen, it's an illegal action to then say, oh, we were supposed to do it. The terminology that he uses is we were supposed to do it. That terminology is used for mandatory effects. So if Sinister Serpent was a mandatory effect, he would have actually saved his illegal action and caught that and be like, oh, actually I have to take it. In fact, in that case, it would have been an illegal action to leave it in the graveyard. It's optional. If you miss the standby phase, you missed the standby phase. You missed your Sinister Serpent and you can't do anything about that. Now the big question is, did it matter? I would say no, because the next turn, he actually ends up, going back to the standby phase. He could have then brought it during this standby phase. We don't know if he would have remembered, but by this point it becomes really difficult to know, but I don't think so. Moving on to part 13. In part 13, there's really only 2 Sinister Serpent illegal actions. Same thing that happened before. Draw phase, you draw, you go to main phase 1, you already make a play, you summon Gemini L, so you're already deep into your main phase 1, and then you bring back the Sinister. So that's an illegal action. Unless your opponent is okay with it, that's accepted game state, but technically all these can be accepted game state, if your opponent accepts it. So did it matter? Well, I would probably say it did not matter, because then, if we go on, yeah, and then the next turn, there we go. Next turn already, by this point, Sinister Serpent would have gone back to the hand in this standby phase if you would have remembered, so I would say it did not matter. And the other illegal Sinister Serpent is actually way over in the 2830 mark. As you can see, draw phase, he sets a card, which means he's already in the main phase 1, and then he brings Sinister Serpent and just special summons it onto the field from the graveyard after, which is illegal because that should be in the standby phase. Sorry, I didn't mean special summon, I meant set. I don't know why I said special summon. Sets it, puts Sangan in defense mode. Did it matter? And so then by this point, we can say that he probably would have remembered it here and set the card. I don't think it mattered. Okay, moving on to episode 14, around the 2640-ish mark. We have a thing with inspection here. This one, I had to put it here because I knew I was going to get a comment about this if I didn't. I'm going to play it and I'll leave you to interpret it in a little bit, but I will also talk a little bit about that.
You could just go ahead and show me your hand. Statistically, I think I'm likely to see it in the 14 activations that I will be firing off.
Well,
basically, in case you don't know, inspection used to have a ruling where there's no limit to how many times you can activate it during the standby phase because the card doesn't actually say anything on there. You could activate it as much as you want as long as you have life points to pay. So MBT ends up paying life points until he has 1,000. That's because he actually wants to get into his combo, regarding his win condition. But the thing that technically, and I say this very technically, is illegal, is the fact that if you tell your opponent, you know what, just show me your whole hand because I'm doing it 14 times. I know that statistically it's very, very likely that you're going to get to see all 3 cards up on 14 random picks. But if someone ever does that to you, just know you have the right to say, actually, let's play it out. Because there is a low chance that only the same 2 cards, or even less chance that the same 1 card is picked all 14 times. How likely is that? Almost impossible, I will say, but it is possible. Did it matter? It's impossible to say. I'm just going to say that he would have gone the very high probability of seeing all 3 cards at least once. So I'm just going to say it more than likely did not matter. This is one that even I'm not 100% sure because I spent so much time online trying to find the ruling and I could find no information about this. It was very difficult. Let me actually play something here.
For turn.
I'll go for last turn, and unfortunately, because I don't have a monster, I believe this forces a draw.
What?
There was...
Okay. So, last turn is very crazy. Let me just read it. It says, this card can only be activated during your opponent's turn when your life points are 1,000 or less. Select 1 monster on your side of the field and send all other cards on the field and in their respective owner's hands to their respective graveyards. After that, your opponent selects and special summons 1 monster from their deck and picks up attack position and attacks your selected monster. After this, it basically says that, whoever's is alive ends up winning. But then at the very end, it says, if there's like any other results, then it ends in a draw, in a tie. So what MBT is saying is that because there's no monster that he has, it's a tie. Because this falls under any other results. Now, there was a lot of debate on some forums, and I saw this, to see if you actually can activate last turn if you don't have a monster on your side of the field. They even bring this up in this video a couple minutes later, and CIMO asked, can you even activate it? And they ended up looking to see, before I show that part, it's because of the way it's worded. Now, obviously it's the opponent's turn and 1,000 life points or less. Yes, that part's checked. But then it starts by saying select 1 monster on your side of the field. A lot of cards that start with sentences like this shows that you can't activate that card because you don't have the fulfillment, the requirement, or the condition, whatever you want to say, because the condition is still the monster. And he doesn't have a monster, so he couldn't activate it, is what the other side of the argument would say. Again, I spent a good 45 minutes on websites, on the wiki, on Pojo, on a bunch of other places to find something official. I couldn't find anything that either confirmed or rejected this. I don't know. Later on, again, CIMO asked that question, but if we move up even further, MBT then is convinced and says that yes, you can because of a specific ruling that is mentioned in the wiki. But it's actually very different. Let me actually talk about this. Okay, so this bullet point is the one that was the only one that came remotely close. Let me read it. You can chain to the activation of last turn with cards like Ring of Destruction, Offerings to the Doom, or Compulsory Evacuation Device to eliminate the opponent's monsters. If the player who activated last turn has no monsters on the field when it resolves, the effects of last turn are not negated. So the turn player can still special summon a monster. Also, the special battle phase is not conducted, but the victory check and the end phase is still performed, which means the person alive with the monster is the winner, which would be the opponent. However, this situation is very different than the situation that happened in the duel. This is perfectly legal. If you activate last turn and somebody Ring of Destruction is your only monster, they're going to destroy it. Now you have nothing. But that part's legal because last turn was already flipped face up to be activated, and then you just did a chain, so now chain resolves backwards. Chain link 2 is Ring of Destruction, chain link 1 is last turn, it resolves, you don't have a monster, but your opponent can special summon one, they win the duel. Simple. However, this part is very different because, I didn't mention this, but non-aggression area was activated, which prevents CIMO from summoning any type of monster, which is why he can't summon anything. However, MBT is in a very different situation. It's not like he had a monster flip last turn and then CIMO chained a Ring of Destruction to blow it up and now last turn has to resolve. No, he actually flipped it face up without a monster. That's a different situation that I was trying to find, and again, I couldn't find any information to confirm or deny that at all. If you know of an official ruling, please let me know in the comments. I'm not saying put your opinion on this, that's very different. Everyone has their own opinions on this. I'm talking about an official ruling that says if you can activate last turn if you have no monsters. I don't know. The big question is, did it matter? I have no fucking clue, people. I have no idea. It ended up in a tie because of what they ruled in their duel. It more than likely seems CIMO could have won this duel if this actually was illegal because he's down to 250, CIMO's at 8,000 still, so I don't know. And the very last illegal action here, it's not really an action itself, more so an illegal deck building thing. Self-destruct button was played by MBT, and they did mention this eventually and realize that. I'm gonna say it really didn't matter. It got heavy storm the only time we actually saw it, and then there it was, but the light point difference was definitely not big enough, as you can see, for it to trigger. So yeah. Alright, so in part 15 there's only one illegal action around the 2640 mark. Let's go ahead and play this.
Gonna take a total of 3,700 here.
And then we'll proceed to the end phase, and Yada returns to my hand.
This thing has a spell counter on it, which gives it 300 more attack. This thing is at 19. Plus Yada's 200 is actually 21. Plus 14 from Mystic Tomato would be 35. He's at 37. If we go on forward, he just ends up admitting defeat. Did it matter? No, it didn't matter. But I did want to mention this because, again, y'all know I'm going to get comments about this like, hey, you missed this thing. Okay, now we're moving on to episode 16. Ho, if any of you have been big fans of this series, you would know that episode 16 is the infamous video where there was so much illegal actions going on, mostly with Butterfly Dagger Elma. So for part 16, the very first thing is that CIMO ends up playing 3 copies of an illegal card at the moment, which is Spell Absorption. Spell Absorption basically gains you 500 life points every time a spell card is activated. So it actually did influence one duel very significantly, but that was completely illegal, so it definitely 100% mattered in that duel, and I'll get to that in just a little bit, but that's the first illegal action. Alright, now we're going to get into the crazy Butterfly Dagger Elma stuff. So Butterfly Dagger Elma is a very powerful card, but it's not like you get to add it into your hand in any situation, and they basically played this duel like that, and that's not how you actually play Butterfly Dagger Elma at all. Now, CIMO was aware of this when he actually talked a little bit about it here in his explanation to it, but let me just go ahead and cover this quickly. So essentially, Spear Dragon that tried to attack Tribe Infecting Virus, got Mirror Force, it blew up. But in this case, Elma should go to the graveyard. If you read it, it says, when this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard while equipped, you can return this card to the hand. Keep in mind that they didn't get destroyed, they got sent to the graveyard because Spear Dragon got destroyed. This effect only works if you have it get destroyed by like a Harpy's Feather Duster or Heavy Storm, you know, any spell or trap removal, or if it gets destroyed by the effect of like Gearfried, which is the infamous combo, which is why it, you know, got banned. So stuff like that. But if the monster it's equipped to dies by battle or by a card effect, these don't go back to the hand. They go to the graveyard because they weren't destroyed. They're just sent to the graveyard. This is actually a mess in terms of knowing did it matter. I'm just gonna say, and I'll actually show the other ones first, that it definitely mattered. Before I mention why though, there's also this other illegal action here. Spirit Dragon attack Mystic Tomato has piercing, should be taking 800 damage, but instead he gained 800 life points. That was a little bit of a misclick there. So this means that he should be down 1600 right now. The minus 800 for the gain and the actual minus 800 for this. So he should be at minus 1600. Now if we go further back and back, what happens? We're going to keep going all the way forward and then this happens. Oh, this infamous thing with Elma. So I'm going to say that that particular thing didn't matter because he should have been down right here at this point, another 1600. He should be down to 1900 at this point when he did that trick. So I would say it didn't matter because in the end he did this trick. Now this trick is specifically the one that I was mentioning that he ended up doing because of spell absorption. This is legal if you can get it off. You basically do Elma, activate to Gearfried, gain 500, gets blown up, back to the hand, and you chain it infinitely and you keep getting your 500 life points, which is why he just put plus 99999 whatever life points. So yes, by this point he can't lose by life points, and this is the duel that definitely mattered with spell absorption being an illegal card in his deck. Because if we go forward, you'll actually see that he should be down to 19, remember that, 1900. There's all these powerful monsters here. Yeah, he Raigeki them, but eventually, you know, then there's that. He should take another damage there, and then more and more. He should be dead by this point. So this duel definitely mattered with that illegal spell absorption in his deck. Okay, for this next clip, I'm actually going to play this right now.
Butterfly Dagger Elba, targeting Sangan.
Sure.
Royal Magical Library gets a counter, I gain 500. I'll activate another Butterfly Dagger Elma, targeting Sangan.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Royal Magical Library gets a counter, I gain 500.
So here, and I'm just going to combine this with the next thing that happens. He then proceeds to end up activating Book of Moon on Royal Magical Library. He declared both Elmas on Sangan. Keep that in mind. MBT uses Book of Moon on Royal Magical Library, so he doesn't get his draw 3. However, so he gets flipped, makes sense, and then CIMO'S sends both back to the hand. I was very confused about this, and they made no mention of this whatsoever, but I think it's because they were assuming that Elma was actually in Royal Magical Library, even though he just said they're both targeting Sangan. If that's the case, they should both be staying here on Sangan. So, you know, just letting you know about that. That's definitely one thing that was very illegal. Both of the cards should be on the field and should be at 2000 attack. The other thing, even if it was on the Royal Magical Library, these Elmas go to the graveyard, because once again, they weren't quote-unquote destroyed and sent to the graveyard while equipped. They just get sent because it gets flipped down. It's just the same thing as destroying a monster by battle. You know, they don't get back to the hand. So there were actually 2 illegal actions there. And yeah, just more, I don't know. I'm not really sure what to think of that. But by this point, I'm just going to say everything definitely did matter here. Moving on to the 38-33 mark, the same duel again. Once again, CIMO'S should be dead by now because of spell absorption and other stuff, but there's more illegal action. CIMO'S ends up attacking Sangan, gets sent to the graveyard. These 3 should be going to the graveyard, but they go back to the hand. Another illegal action with Elma, so this definitely mattered. By this point, this duel shouldn't even be happening anymore. And then one more illegal action in the same duel. So Royal Magical Library gets attacked, another 2400 damage. These CIMO'S should be like at negative 8000 life points right now, or something. But then he gets attacked, another 2400 direct basically. These should be going back to the graveyard, but they go back to the hand, so that's another illegal action. And so that's all the illegal actions for this duel. So what actually ended up happening? Hilarious that CIMO'S did end up getting Exodia out of like, it only took about 15 illegal actions to get Exodia. It was really funny in the end though, and again, none of this is malicious, obviously. It was funny, but obviously this is one that I can say 100% mattered. This should have been MBT's match, because Game 3 shouldn't be happening by this point. It should have been a 2-0 sweep, and that's it. So it doesn't even matter what happens here because the match should have been over. So yes, it definitely mattered. Alright, so in part 19, there weren't actually illegal actions within the duel. One of them technically was, but it was more so about illegal cards that MBT played. And here, I'm not going to play the clip. Basically, it's confirmed that MBT did play an illegal Mirror Force and United We Stand. So they're both actually banned cards in this format, so that was illegal for the first duel, but they never came up, so that did not matter. Moving on. However, at around the 2010 mark, let me go ahead and play this.
Is this banned too?
What is it now?
Holy shit, it's Harpy's Feather Duster. Of course it's banned. Oh god. Alright. I was like, what a great draw! Oh my god.
Do you want to
Alright.
bottom it and draw a different card?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so CIMO'S suggestion is actually one of the better suggestions if this ever happens. It's better than sending the card to the graveyard or sending it to the banish zone, because in those situations, it could affect, just graveyard interaction and banish zone interaction a lot more than putting it at the bottom of the deck. So yes, that was a very good suggestion there to do. So I would say it did not matter because it was resolved right away. But yes, just having to mention that because again, I'm going to get comments from all of you about this. Alright, so moving on to part 20 at around the 2320 mark. Let's play this clip.
Yeah. Alright, let's see what that set card is.
It is a DD Warrior Lady of my own, so you will take 100 damage, and would you like to banish?
Alright, so he was supposed to take 100 deflected damage and accidentally did minus 1,000, which means that he should be up 900 life points at 7,900. So that was an illegal damage calculation there. Didn't matter, let's move forward all the way. And we can say that it really didn't matter because in here he brings out BLS, CIMO, attacks for 14. It has an effect that it can attack again once in a row, a second attack. So it should have been minus 14. And then minus 3,000 from the second attack. So it definitely did not matter because he would have died anyway. So yep. However, the other thing that takes place around the same time as the BLS is the activation of Giant Trunade here, and what happens with this. So Premature Burial is tied with Blade Knight. Keep that in mind. Giant Trunade gets activated, sends all those cards to the hand, and then what MBT does, he sends Blade Knight to the graveyard. Blade Knight should actually be able to stay on the field, not go to the graveyard. This is exactly why these cards are banned, because you can abuse this by activating it, Giant Trunading, activating again, bring out another monster. It's so abusive. But they actually sent it to the graveyard, so that would have been another monster that would have been there. Now, it didn't matter because this is the same thing that I just mentioned. It's the same situation. So, if we actually take a look at the math here, we're going to see that it's 3,000 to the 14. He should be up 900, so he should be at 3,250. Keep that in mind. He takes 14, and then he should take 14 again, right? Minus 28. So technically speaking with this, it would have mattered, but obviously if his life points were higher by 900, CIMO would have seen that and be like, well, I'll also change of heart one of your monsters, and then take it. So it wouldn't have mattered anyway, and that would have been the game. So, nope, did not matter. Alright, in the next duel, however, let me go ahead and play this clip.
Ring of Destruction here. I think I'm going to take out your tribe.
Yeah, seems right.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll both take 16 instead, and then you're going to hit me for 16 with Makira as well.
Okay, so Ring of Destruction means that both players take 16. CIMO takes an additional 16 from the attack of Makira, so he loses 32. MBT loses 16, but we look in the log, he actually never, and I repeat, never actually ended up losing those 16, so he should be right now at 54. Nothing would have actually mattered, because he should have been at 54, and then all, this onslaught of monsters happens here. CIMO actually goes ahead and admits defeat, and that's it. That's it. So he would have still lost the duel anyway. So nope, did not matter, but that was an illegal calculation there. Alright, and the very last one is actually episode 25. So there was nothing from 21 to 24, surprisingly. So let's go ahead and play this clip here.
Of course it's
Dekoichi! Oh my god.
This
All
time
right.
I do have some.
Thank
so
God.
I will also be joining you in the banishment festivities. Are we going to be confirming? I only have 2.
Well, you don't
So-
have to confirm for me. I've got them all.
Yeah.
You know what? I trust you.
Okay, so I just wanted to let you know something that MBT said. I find his ruling to be very stupid, so let me just mention something right now. The rule with no element of crossout, or really cards that have to do with checking cards in the deck, says that you are still legally allowed to check your opponent's deck even if all 3 cards were banished. Oh my god, this is ridiculous. I hate this ruling so much, but hey, I've got to play it by the rules, right? So basically, Knock hit one of them, MBT sent it up 2 more. You would think logically, oh, I can't check his deck because obviously all 3 are already gone. He obviously doesn't have another Dekoichi in the deck. However, the official ruling says that if you don't allow your opponent to check, even if all 3 were banished, that's actually illegal. So just know future duels about this, they can still check your deck even if all 3 are banished, which again, it's so dumb. I hate it. It's one of the dumbest rules ever. It's like the tuck rule equivalent of the NFL. However, moving on to around the 18-minute mark, a little bit before that, MBT activates Soul Exchange to sacrifice the face-down defense position monster as a tribute and brings out the Stalos. So the Stalos then goes ahead and does the effect, yeah, discards a card, whatever. However, Soul Exchange, in case you don't know, has an effect where, I don't know if it actually pulls up, I don't think it does, but that's fine. Basically, you cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate it. So what do? He conducts the battle phase. So CIMO loses 14, loses to Sangan, gets to search off of Sangan into a Spirit Reaper, and then by this point it's really difficult to know if it would have mattered, because by this point he should have 1400 more life points, Sangan should be on the field, Spirit Reaper should still be in the deck, which means that he would have drawn a different card because the deck would not have been shuffled. It's impossible to know what would have happened from this outcome, but that it was an illegal action right there. I don't know. However, moving on into the next duel, now we can see here that this time CIMO goes ahead and uses Soul Exchange by tributing that face down to Koichi, brings out the Stalos, rolls a 3, you know, just random to pull out a card, and he gets Cyber Dragon, a level 5 monster. The Stalos' second effect, or not second part of the effect I should say, is that it inflicts 100 damage to the opponent times the level of the monster if it was a monster. In this case, MBT should have taken 500 damage. He should be at 75, he never took it. They forgot about that part, so yeah. Now, did it matter? I'm going to say no, because if we move all the way to the end of this duel, we can see that MBT uses Snatch Seal on the Koichi, tributes Spirit Reaper for the Stalos, attacks for game. By this point, he should have been down to 2100 life points to CIMO'S 25. He would have still won the duel, so no, it did not matter. And the very last illegal action of the video is at the 39 mark, around there. Tribute summon from CIMO into Stalos again. Gets a 5, discards the Magician of Fate, a 1-star monster. He should have taken 100 damage for that level 1 monster. Does not take it, so he should be at 64. Did it matter? Let's see. And it did not matter, because the duel was over basically right here. He should have been down to 900 at this point, but nope, did not matter. And that's actually it for all the illegal actions. So that was a lot of illegal actions. Let me know what you think about this. I'll definitely be doing more of these. The progression series is kind of close-ish, well, sort of, to the 50th episode, and once that goes up, I'll go ahead and do the next 25 of that one. And there's also the progression playoffs from MBT that people want me to also showcase, so I will definitely do that as well. Yeah, so lots of good stuff coming, so stay tuned for that. Before I end the video, I would always like to encourage you to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. Thank you, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great day.